Mike Owens here, joined today by Dricus Du Plessis, the #1 contender in the UFC's middleweight division. Dricus, always a pleasure, my man. How are things with you today?
Oh man, great! Thank you for having me. It's always great to talk to you. Usually it happens before fights, but no, it's always been good luck. So hopefully this time it's good luck for us getting that fight.
Well, we have switched it up. Normally, as you mentioned, it's pre-fight, but obviously this is the first time we spoke since UFC 290. So first of all, my congratulations on the Robert Whittaker win. Fantastic performance. Obviously, a couple of months now to kind of think about that fight. How do you look back on your performance at UFC 290?
No, thank you so much, man. No, it's looking back at the fight, I always knew that I was going to be #1, and I always knew Robert Whittaker was going to be somebody on the way to the top, because I don't need to be fighting for a belt by beating number 2 and 3, but beating #1, and that was the way to cement that #1 contender spot, and not get it because Izzy has fought everybody else, but get it because I deserve it. And things have been great. And looking back at that, that's the next step in my career. And after that fight, we even stepped it up more. Obviously being injured for a little while after the fight preventing me from training full speed, but I've been at 100% again for the past 3 weeks. So training's been going well, and we in our training we basically already started training for Adesanya, and now things have been shook around.
Well, you brought it up, so we'll take it there. Obviously, Saturday night we saw a bit of an upset in Sean Strickland defeating Adesanya in Sydney, Australia, UFC 293. Just your overall reaction to the actual result and what you made of the fight in general.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, massive congratulations and to Sean Strickland. He just became the middleweight champion of the world, and he's been in the sport for such a long time. And to be honest, I was somebody that always liked his fighting style, and he was always somebody that was fun to watch. And sometimes he showed up, and sometimes he didn't fight that great, but he was always there. But in my mind, he was never going to be a champion. And here he is. That is the name of the game. Show up on the night and do your job, and he did that very, very well. Adesanya, on the other hand, looked extremely terrible in that fight. I didn't look like the same guy that all of us know. He didn't look like the striker that he's known to be. And I know Strickland. A lot of people saying, "No, Strickland just shut him down." He did that very well. He did walk him down, but Adesanya was missing every shot. His timing was off. His speed was off. But Strickland did what he had to do to win that fight. And in my honest opinion, like I said, congratulations on Strickland. He did what he needed to do to win that fight, and he did it great. But it wasn't something special that he did. He fought the exact same fight he always fights. He fought the exact same way he always fights. And he walked Adesanya down, and he did such a great job at not baiting to feints, but sticking to his plan. So that's great. For me, right now, Strickland is the target. That's how it is for me. I'm not #1 contender in the world to fight Adesanya. I'm number one contender in the world to fight Sean Strickland.
Yeah, no, 100%. Obviously, as you mentioned,
number one contender in the world to fight for the belt. Like that's what I said before the fight. I don't care who has the belt. For me, it's about getting that title.
It's not the opponent; it's the belt that you want.
100%.
Yeah. Do you think any part of Adesanya overlooked Sean Strickland? I mean, there was a lot of talk of your name mentioned in the build-up. There was a lot of talk about potentially fighting on UFC 300. Do you think he maybe looked past Sean Strickland?
Yeah, I think that might have been a big thing. I think that might have been. It could have played a role. You don't know what goes in the camp. His coach when he spoke. Usually when the camp goes a little bit dodgy. When the guys didn't have a great camp. Afterwards, you would hear that, listen, we didn't have a great camp. Camp was tough. And his coach never said anything about that. So, I'm also not one, listen, if I fought Robert Whittaker with an injury. If I had lost that fight, I would have never even mentioned that injury.
Yeah.
Because I've had, because that's making excuses, and I don't believe in that. So the only reason I even mentioned the injury in the first place, even the fact that I won the fight, was that I knew they wanted me to turn around in 7 weeks against Adesanya. So, with the Robert Whittaker fight, exactly, I didn't mention that because I had to mention that. With them, they can mention, listen, that's how you make a case for a rematch. We had a terrible camp, something went wrong. But up until this point, they haven't really provided us with any reason why Adesanya performed the way he did.
No, 100%. I completely agree. Obviously, I know when I asked this question, I know you might be a little bit cagey because the Adesanya fight is very, very likely. But was there certain things that Sean Strickland did on Saturday night that you looked at and went, I would have implemented that in my game plan? Was there certain patterns or certain things that he was doing that you would have also tried to have done against Adesanya?
Yes, 100%. I think what Strickland did very well. A big weapon that Adesanya has is the calf kicks and his low kicks. His kicks are on a point, and people are scared of them because when you're on his kicking range is very far. He has such a long leg reach, but Strickland stayed in that range, even closer than that, and he checked those kicks very good. That would have been if I had to fight Adesanya, that's something I would have been wary of. I would make sure to check those kicks because they do add up, especially when you're going. When he every now and again he just hits one out there, and Strickland checked every one of those kicks about, and that was good. He did a great job at that. And then of course, Adesanya, what he likes to do is do that step back, lean back, and throw that hook, and that's where we saw Strickland with the straight shots catch it. And a lot of people when he does that, they also lift up their chin. And Strickland stayed straight down the middle, threw those punches down the middle. Did a great job with that. And obviously the pressure, he did extremely well. Adesanya likes to circle around on the outside of the cage, and Strickland, he used his cage control very, very smart. He cut him off. He stayed on him the whole time, and that kind of put Izzy under so much pressure that he just couldn't get his offense going.
Yeah. No. Obviously, you mentioned there as well that you want to fight for the belt. The man who holds it doesn't really matter necessarily, but there was a bit of a grudge match there. It probably would have been a bigger fight in terms of Adesanya versus Du Plessis than Strickland Du Plessis. What are your emotions to the overall event? Is there any kind of disappointment in how this has turned out for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Adesanya fight is still a fight that everybody wants to see. Myself versus Adesanya, and to go on a fight night and do that fight doesn't make sense.
Of course.
What makes sense right now is giving me the fight. If you look at it, let's give Adesanya a rematch. That doesn't really make sense. It's not justified. Being I think 2-1 in his last 2 outings.
Yeah.
And he lost to Pereira, won Pereira, lost to Strickland. That does not justify a title fight for me. And if he lost a close fight, if he was winning the fight like he was in Pereira's first fight, and then got caught, understandably a rematch can be justified, but it wasn't a close fight. Strickland absolutely obliterated him for 5 rounds. So, what makes sense to me is the big fight with me and Adesanya is still on the table. It's still there. We can still capitalize on that because he does deserve a hiding. He does deserve what's coming to him from me. And how I see this in my mind is I fight Strickland, become the middleweight champion, and the first title defense is against Israel Adesanya at UFC 300. In a perfect world, that's how I would like it to play out.
In a perfect world, that's how I would like it to play out, to be honest with you, Dricus.
Yeah.
Have you got a timeline for your return? Like if you would, obviously the UFC kind of rings you up and kind of calls the shots in terms of dates and locations, but is there an ideal time frame? You mentioned an injury there, a pre-Whittaker fight. Is there a timeline you would like to make?
I'm good. I'm training. I would be more than happy. I would love it actually to fight in December. I'll be ready to go in December, and that would give me 5 fights for the past year. And I've been active, and I want to stay active as long as I can. And I've been climbing the ladder. The only thing right now is the fight needs to make sense. I've earned my spot at the top of the division, and my number one contender spot wasn't by default. Nobody retired. Nobody moved out of the division. I got that number one contender spot by beating the number one guy, which is Robert Whittaker. And if I can fight in December, I'll be extremely happy. Right? I know they don't have a main event right now for December. I don't know if they do, but I would love to fight for the belt in December.
I believe the 2 rumors are obviously McGregor and Chandler, which doesn't look too likely, and then the other one is Sugar Sean versus Chito, which could be fairly likely. But as you mentioned, it's not signed, sealed, and delivered, so they do still need a main event for that fight.
I mean, that's just in terms of timeline. That's when I'll be ready to fight. I'll be ready to fight in December.
I want to talk about something as well, and it was one of those fights on Saturday night where if you'd have watched it and told me one person was fighting in the home continent and one person travelled halfway across the world, I would have picked Adesanya to have been the one to have done the travel, not Sean Strickland. Were you surprised that Strickland was able to keep up that pace and that pressure, given the travel and the time difference that he had to kind of acclimatise to?
Yeah. I mean, the pressure was amazing. he did extremely well. I don't know. I would like to go. I haven't gone to see what exactly the output numbers were, because they were in each other's faces the whole time. But there was a lot of moving and running, and I would love to go and see what the exact numbers were on the amount, the output. But Sean Strickland fought the right fight. He fought the perfect fight to beat Adesanya on Saturday night, and traveling to Australia, firstly looking like the fan favorite for sure, and understandably so. To me, I have my opinions on Adesanya as a person, not a very likable guy. Doesn't mean anything to me. We're not there to make friends. Sean Strickland, on the other hand, he's entertaining. He's fun to watch, and I really have nothing against the guy. I just really want to beat him and take his belt. That's it. But for him to travel, and he did extremely well. Obviously, he's had a lot of 5-rounders, and you can see why. He didn't look tired at all, not at all. And also, one thing people have to realize in a fight like that, there wasn't a lot of wrestling and clinching happening. That's where the real gas starts. That's where the arms get tired. That's where the legs get tired, the whole body. That's where the muscles start pumping. Is when we're clinching and wrestling and on the ground, and when you're fighting an MMA fight. They basically had a big kickboxing fight, so that also played a role, I believe. But like I said, Strickland did exactly what he needed to do, and he did it very, very well.
100%. Obviously, we've talked a little bit there about the rivalry that started, if you like, between yourself and Adesanya over the entirety of 2023, I suppose. But obviously, we saw the in-cage altercation, let's say, at UFC 290. Now, you told me pre-fight that you had no feelings towards Adesanya. He's just a champion. He's a man who I'm looking to take his belt off. Given that altercation and the way it turned out after your fight with Robert Whittaker, did your opinions change towards Israel Adesanya?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I think not at all. I think that to him that meant a lot more than to me. To me, that meant, great, I have a title shot coming. To him, it meant something personal. You could see it in the. I honestly feel that he embarrassed himself a little there. Always being in control, always being calculated in what he says, how he approaches things, and he knew he was going to get into that cage. He knew it.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily know it, but he knew it. And he came in there and he was saying the wrong things, talking about 36s and me, and I don't know what he was saying. And almost he was all over the show. He didn't look composed at all, not at all. And coming out screaming racial slurs as a champion. So that immediately made me win the first battle, and that was all it was for me. There was no emotional feeling towards him at all. I wasn't angry. I wasn't disappointed. It didn't matter. To me, the only thing that mattered was I just beat Robert Whittaker in spectacular fashion. And well, now this dude's right here in my face, and he has the belt, so he's the next guy. So right now, I don't even think about him anymore because he's out and Sean Strickland's in. In the words of the great Kenny Powers.
Yeah, 100%. I want to talk about the Whittaker fight as well, Dricus, because that was a fight where a lot of people counted you out. We talked about it pre-fight as well. There's a lot of people. I saw a lot of media online literally saying they don't give you a chance. There's no way that you can win, which is frankly a silly thing to say in any MMA fight, let alone a #1 contenders fight. How did it feel, in as much as to get the win over Whittaker, to prove all the doubters wrong, because there was quite a few?
Yeah, 100%. And I like to say, I don't care about proving the doubters wrong, but proving those who believe in me right. But it did feel pretty sweet to know that everybody that believed in me could laugh at everybody who didn't, and there was a lot more people to laugh at than to laugh with. You can believe that. I was such a big underdog in that fight, and I just knew in my heart that I have everything to beat Robert Whittaker. And I believe we talked about it as well before the fight. And I said, I need to put on the perfect performance, my best performance.
Yes.
If the best Dricus fights the best Robert Whittaker, I beat him every time. But a 70 or 80% Dricus won't beat a good Robert Whittaker. That's not going to happen. Not at that stage, and not a caliber fighter like Robert Whittaker. He's an absolute savage. When I got into the cage with him, the first exchanges we threw, I just thought to myself, damn, this guy's good. This guy's good. It's hard. It's fast. His kicks are good. He sees things coming. The way he moves, he gets out of the way. But, the best Dricus showed up on the night. Well, the best Dricus so far. I would give myself a good 7 to 8 out of 10 for that performance. But, there was still a lot of mistakes and there was still a lot of things that need to be fixed. And they will be fixed once I fight for that title.
I love it. I guess the final piece of the puzzle in terms of the middleweight title picture maybe happens next month. Because I know Dana potentially talked about Khamzatchimaev versus Paulo Costa being in the mix in terms of getting that title shot. Now, I'm sure you will sit there and say you should be next, and I 100% agree you should be next. But what do you make of that overall fight and its kind of importance to the overall title picture?
I can see, me and Dana, well, I don't even know if Dana knows who I am, to be honest with you. Up until the Whittaker fight, I honestly believe that Dana didn't know who this South African dude was up until the Whittaker win. But, I've been a company man this whole time I've been fighting in the UFC. I've never badmouthed the UFC, and I never will. It's the company I work for, and I'm extremely proud to work for them. But in terms of, there comes a stage where you need to realize, are we going to be, what justifies, or what counts for one guy needs to count for everybody, I'm assuming, because if you look at TJ Dillashaw, when he hurt his shoulder, we went into the fight with Aljo, and obviously he had a massive shoulder injury before that. And the UFC was furious at him. They said, listen, you compromised the event by fighting injured.
Yeah.
Why didn't you let us know of this injury? So now I go and I declare my injury. I tell them, listen, I'm not going to be able to fight at the best of my abilities with this injury. And they go right ahead and say, yeah, Dana goes ahead and says, you know how I feel about fighters turning down fights. So what I'm asking is, what's the thing? What do? Do you go fight injured and then you get roasted for that after the fight? Or do you tell them I'm injured and then you get roasted for not taking the fight? So, that's a point I would like to get to, because I feel that from the company, I'm getting a lot of flack. But I fought 3 times in 7 months. I flew to the US with my whole team to fight Anthony Hernandez. On the airport, they phone me and tell me Calvin Gastelum's opponent pulled out. Will I save that event and fight Calvin Gastelum on a week's notice? I say 100%. Let's do it. Let's go. I lose my fight. I signed a fight with Gastelum. 3 days before the fight, he pulls out. So right now, I paid for hotels, I paid for cars, I paid for everything for my team for 10 days. And I didn't get paid for that fight. I didn't get a show first. I didn't get reimbursed for everything. That's, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. But that's the kind of stuff they forget when they go right out and say, listen, Dricus doesn't want to take this fight. When they phoned me the day after Christmas saying the Derek Brunson fight, 2 weeks right after I fought Till, that means my camp starts next week. Went directly back into camp for Derek Brunson. I didn't say no to any fights. When they phoned me for the Whittaker fight, even though the Adesanya fight was actually the fight to make, they immediately said, so Robert Whittaker, that's the fight. And I said, okay, if that's the fight, that's the fight. I've never challenged them and been difficult. I've always said, I'll fight. This is the only time ever that I've said no, purely because, well, I didn't even say, I said, listen, guys, I'm injured.
Yeah.
And fighting in 7 weeks, not possible.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting a lot of heat from the company for that. And I feel that's a little bit unfair because, like I said, TJ Dillashaw got the same heat for not declaring he's injured. Now I'm getting the heat from the company for saying I'm injured.
No, I completely agree, Dricus, and thank you for that. I guess I would like to leave it on one final point. You've mapped out for us in an ideal world how this all plays out for you. You fight Sean Strickland, you then fight Israel Adesanya as your first title defense. So right now, right here, what's your message to the now champion, Sean Strickland?
Now the message is, once again, congratulations on shocking the world. And like I said, I made a post yesterday saying, we by far, myself and Sean Strickland, have the biggest upset of 2023. But nobody gave me a shot. 32 pros were asked, and 32 pros said Dricus is losing that fight. I didn't give Sean Strickland a shot in hell to win this fight.
Yeah.
Nobody did. I would have maybe given him a 1% chance, if that much. But this is MMA and anything can happen. And right now, this is the fight to make. You know, let's settle this like men. Let's settle this. You know, we were the underdogs in the whole division, the guys that nobody thought could make it to the title. And right now, here we are, number one contender, the real. I have the number one next to my name, and he has that C as champion next to his name. Let's settle this. Let's fight for the belt, and you know, may the best man win. And by best man, I mean myself.
I love it. Dricus, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure to catch up. It was great to see you get the win back in July. I look forward to seeing the next one soon, my friends.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.